I am very intimidated by this crew, but we're going to do our best to to do what we can to be helpful. My name is Sue, and I'm the senior program manager at Common Sense Education, and that is my Twitter handle where I spend a lot of time. I am also the co-founder of Equity in Action California. I work with a group of teachers, educators, folks here in Southern California to increase the amount of underrepresented folks at our conferences, especially in our tech spaces. And so equity is huge and important to me and a huge part of what I do every day. Here's my disclaimer. I am not a gamer unless you count board games. Like these are, I know Allison is looking very closely, trying to read titles, right? This was our last, this is all everything we played in one day, like a year ago at Christmas time. So with our family, this is a lot of what we do, but at the same time, okay, good. I'm so glad to hear it. Systems thinking, all kinds of good stuff. I am, however, a believer in esports. And I feel like I am a very good representative and good arm twister because I am not in this world, because I have nothing to gain, because I work for Common Sense, which is an organization that is all about media, technology, kids, protecting kids, making sure that the media and technology are appropriate. I just wrote this newsletter like a month ago. So this is the quote from the newsletter. This is me trying to convince the average educator and parent that esports is something that is beneficial to all. So this went out to like our, 15,000, 20,000 subscribers. And I didn't know what kind of blowback we were going to get when it comes to, promoting esports as a place to teach digital citizenship, to teach social and emotional skills, to really provide mentorship, leadership as a space for inclusivity. This was my argument. And this was my argument for the average person who does not even think that esports, I wrote a bigger piece. This is just a little excerpt, but like I run around Common Sense trying to convince everybody that we need to jump in on this. This is an opportunity. This is a space. This is a place for helping kids understand how to behave in a way that is just what we want. We want them to be social and kind and respectful and lovely toward each other. This is an opportunity for us to be able to be in on that. So if you have if I do not cover any ground today and you see another opportunity that you can give me some more ammunition for helping parents, reluctant educators, people who are like, oh, video games are the worst, like give me that ammunition because I am ready to go out there and fight this fight, I guess. And I hope that I can be a good representative, a good spokesperson, especially because I am not in this world, right? I want to be that bridge. So that's my background, and that's kind of why I'm here. Everybody's tired of talking about esports. I begin a lot of times when I'm thinking about ways in which I convince folks by saying that like kids are using media and technology like crazy, right? We do these Common Sense census studies every 2 years, and this one was our most recent in 2021. Media use is growing faster, especially in this during the pandemic. It blew up, of course, as we all know, faster in the last 2 years than it did in the 4 years prior to the pandemic, right? And kind of more generally, boys are using more screen time than girls, which I thought was kind of interesting. And you're looking at statistics for tweens and teens. So tweens between the ages of 8 and 12 are at the bottom. Teens between the ages of 13 and 18 are at the top. And you're seeing, on average, the total amount of entertainment screen time per day, right? And that's not including school time. And so that you're looking at 8 hours and 39 minutes a day of screen time on average for our kids. And that includes of the 8 to 18-year-olds who enjoy these activities a lot. Online videos are still king. Like kids love YouTube, kids love TikTok, kids love watching online videos, but video games are right behind. And I guess my point is like to folks, whether your kids are in esports, they are gaming. They are gaming no matter what. And so you can, poo-poo these video games, but the fact is they're already gaming, and it's a huge part of their lives. And as you can see on the right hand side, when we're looking at the amount, right behind TV and videos, it's right there. And so, kids who they love it, and they love it for a reason. And why not put them in a space where they can be, become leaders, become recognized, be in a mentored space, be in a structured space, be in a place where they have guidance, and where I can be social and be happy, right? And find a social circle around this. So this is kind of my like, they're already there. Let's get them in someplace good. And then the other piece that I always want to point out is this, these statistics are for social media. And in 2020, we had a lot of students, a lot of kids between 14 to 22 who encounter a lot of things that we just do not want them to encounter, but it's the reality of the tech space. Body shaming, racism, sexism, homophobia is being encountered more often than not. And I can imagine that this is not all that different in the gaming spaces that they are in. So, so when they see it a lot on social media, I'd imagine that they're seeing a lot of similar trends in the gaming spaces that they're in. So that's my background on research, what I tell parents, what I tell educators. We're here anyway. Let's create a positive space. So if you got any tips on how I can maybe hone this argument a little bit, by all means, feel free, give me some other stuff in here. And so when I was thinking about you guys today, I just wanted to think about, what do you want to avoid seeing in your gaming spaces, and what do you want to see in your school's gaming spaces? So when it comes to the culture that's in there, what are you providing to your students? So I'm going to see I put in a Jamboard link in there, and we're going to see what it is that our students are already, what do we want them to, what do you hate seeing, and what do you want to see? What kind of culture, what kind of language, what kind of interactions do you want to see in these spaces? So yeah, tell me about it. I'm going to jump out of here. I'm going to jump over to this Jamboard, and yeah, y'all are still seeing my Jamboard. Cool. All right. So if you don't know how to use Jamboard, by the way, there's this little sticky note. This is my favorite. That's kind of one way that I use. And so I say I don't want to see dirty language. I don't want to hear that dirty language. And then I hit cancel. And then I put that in the I want to avoid seeing. Nobody uses the word dirty language. If you want to unmute yourself, you're welcome to talk about it too. But figure, all right, Jamboard might be toxic attitudes. Yeah, that's all. This one's the easy part, is what do you want to avoid? Because we've all seen it. Oh yeah. Favorite. If you want to talk about any of these, favoritism toward other high skilled players, right? Ooh, that means putting down low skilled players, right? So we don't want to see that kind of stuff. We want to see everybody being encouraged, and we want to see positivity toward everybody. Oh yeah, I want more girls too. Peer-to-peer coaching. Yeah, that would be wonderful to see more of that. An attitude of perseverance. There is nothing more perseverant than a gamer, I already thought, but maybe I'm wrong on that. They are the most persistent and perseverant kids I see. Social communication. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so here's my next question here. What are you already doing to make your students in these spaces feel safe and supported and positive? So if you already have some, first thing I think of is a code of conduct, right? We have a code of conduct that we pull out at the beginning of the year, and here's what we do. Is there anything else that you're already doing to create the good stuff and avoid some of the bad stuff? Or are you kind of we just throw them all together and just hope for the best? What are you already doing? I guess that's my other question. And you're welcome to Jamboard it up. Oh, I don't know if you know this. You toggle, you toggle into to page 2 up here if you want to go to the next frame with this question. Model yourself. Yeah, that gamer pledge. That's great. Does anybody want to speak about any of this? How easy it has been or how difficult it has been to create that positive space? And you do not have to. Yeah, Well-moderated Discord channel. That's great. The one that you all moderate. Yeah. Okay. This is super helpful. This is making me feel very positive about what it is that we're already doing. And I'm also feeling kind of hopeful because maybe I have something to offer you today. Let's hope. All right. So here is what I wanted to share today. Let's see. My argument is all the kids who are in your esports program, as well as all the kids that are at your school in general, they all need some of these emotional, social and emotional skills that are already, that are part of our digital lives as well as our in-person lives, right? So specifically, when we're talking about social and emotional skills, in case you're unfamiliar, there is this group called CASTLE, and I have the CASTLE framework linked down here. But the CASTLE framework talks about social and emotional learning, and it includes these 5 competencies of self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. And when it comes to, a lot of teachers, they're already teaching a lot of these skills, but they think of it like in person and being nice, right? And being respectful and having these skills in real life. But it is a huge part of digital life. And we are talking about, navigating these unique challenges that technology brings into our lives every day, because there is something very special about talking to people and developing relationships through phones or through games or through technology. And so when we talk about examples in digital life, we're talking about, when it comes to these domains, when it comes to these competencies, identifying when somebody's approaching you and when it comes to self-awareness and you don't feel right? You are in a community with somebody and they are asking you for something and it's like, oh, something is wrong and I don't quite know why, right? So how do we help our students understand what to do and be able to listen to themselves when it comes to those red flag feelings? Or managing emotions. I'm sure every one of you is dealing with managing emotions around, media and technology when it comes to gaming, right? Like there's a lot of frustration, there's a lot of joy. How do you kind of keep your emotions in check? When it comes to evaluating the positive and negative impacts of some of the decisions that you're making, which communities to be part of, whether to post something in that Discord channel, right? Anything like that. Like, how do you evaluate whether or not that's something that's going to be helpful to you? And then when it comes to relationships, we talk about that peer-to-peer mentoring. We talk about, stepping in, helping each other out, right? How do we develop those relationship skills? And then how do we help understand, like, ooh, that kid just, had a really hard day, right? Like, how could I help that kid out? Or, that must be really hard to be in that situation. I need to be able to understand what it means to take other people's perspectives, among all of these other, digital life skills. And so this is here, this is a full set of social and emotional learning lessons that relate to digital life. And I know many of you are probably dealing with older kids rather than younger kids, but this is a full progression chart. And if you are looking for resources when it comes to SEL and digital life, these are each a hyperlink to a different lesson that is 15 minutes long. And you could even do it shorter than that if you want to, right? Is this something that you might want to be able to pull and use, with your students at some point, right? So these are each 15 minutes. I'm going to demo one of them right now. I think I'm going to pull this screen time. How much is too much, right? So when I pull this one, I think that's the one. So this one is about self-management and us. I know that screen time is a huge concern for our parents. It's a huge concern for our educators, right? And for our students, I'm sure too. And so, when we do this, this lesson, it's a 5-minute video, and I'm going to show you some of this video. And there's a student handout, and you kind of ask your kids, how many hours of screen time today you think is unhealthy? How much is too much? And that's how you begin the lesson. And this comes from our partners at KQED. And I want you, as you're watching this video, I love this video. And as you're watching it, I want you to think about, like, is gaming active or passive, right? Because they're going to define active or passive digital activities. And the other question I want you to think about is, does your screen time impact your sleep or your relationships, right? So we're just going to watch this real quick because I love it. I'm going to turn on the closed captions.
Have you ever kept track of how much time you spend looking at a screen? Like actually logged what you're doing and for how long? Well, that's what I did over the last few days. And on an average day, I spent about an hour on Instagram, way too much time on Twitter, over 3 hours, and a little over an hour or so on Netflix. So in total, I'm spending over 5 hours every day in front of a screen. And that's not counting text messages or listening to music. That's literally a quarter of my day, every day. So what's all this screen time doing to me? Well, I asked what I always ask, Google. And the results fell into 2 buckets. The first bucket blamed smartphones, video games, and social media for increases in depression, anxiety, and even obesity. The second bucket said that screen use might help improve how we feel about ourselves by keeping us connected with people. So, what does the scientific research say? Is all this screen time really bad for us? Okay, first things first, screen time as a term isn't that useful because it doesn't really tell you what you're doing on screen. It's kind of like if someone asks you what you had for lunch and you say, food. That doesn't really provide any real info. And not all screen time is created equal. Context matters. Spending 4 hours creating a video for YouTube is way different than spending 4 hours watching cat videos. How you feel about and how you process each of those situations won't be the same. So lumping them under screen time doesn't make much sense. If researchers want to figure out what spending so much time on our screens is doing to us, they need to break down a few variables. What's the specific screen activity? Are we passively scrolling and looking at pictures, or are we commenting and posting? How long and how often are we on the screen? Because there's so much to untangle, the research is kinda all over the place. You can find individual studies that support and contradict just about every conclusion linking screen time and health. To quote the director of the National Institutes of Health, the research is quite limited, has not been conclusive, and further study is needed. That's why it's crucial to look over a body of research to identify trends. All right, so let's get to it. Our digital lives can take a physical toll on us, and I'll be the first to admit, I'm usually on my phone right before I go to bed, even though multiple studies have shown that that leads to bad sleep. And we all know what can happen without enough sleep. Concentrating on things is hard, you can get irritable. I sort of walk around like a zombie, and sometimes me no make when I talk I. Sense? And it's not just me. In 1991, 26% of teens were getting less than the doctor recommended 7 hours of sleep a night. Today, that number is over 40%. Now, that doesn't mean you can place the blame on screens, but that same study did find that teens who spent 5 hours a day online were 50% more likely to not sleep enough than those who only spent an hour online each day. I'm skeptical though. Who are those people that say they only spend an hour online a day, and why are they lying to researchers? Doesn't make sense.
Okay. So that's just that's a piece of this, but I want to know from all of you, is gaming, is that something that is active or is it a passive digital activity? What do you all think? Active or passive? You can give me a thought in your slideshow, or you can give me a thought in the comments, or you can unmute yourself, and depends on the kind of game. What would your students say, I wonder? Yeah. Julie, you think it's active? Yeah. There is some heart rates, there is some, emotion, there's activity, there's involvement. Yeah, I understand that Candy Crush it's meant to be a mind number, right? It's meant to be soothing. It's meant to be, something that gives you, it's kind of monotonous in a way, right? Like a little bit of a trance maker. Yes, I think your students would say it's active. Yeah, I think so too. So does that mean that like a lot of times we talk about active and passive, we talk about active, like the pinnacle of active, I think, is creation, right? So you're like, it's not quite like if you ask your students to put active to passive on a spectrum where watching TV might be, something that is very passive, right? If you're just watching something, and then creating something brand new and putting it out into the world might be the most active thing you could do, where would gaming be on that spectrum? And how do they evaluate themselves? And, maybe putting different games in different positions, right? And then the question I have is like, we talk about sleep. And I know that is a real thing for a lot of our teens. That's more my concern when it comes to screen time than anything else. And so does screen time impact your sleep? Does it impact your relationships? right? So that's kind of, kind of what I'm concerned with is, what would your students say? Yeah, conversations and interaction, right? Lots of noise. You want those kids interacting with each other, right, in the lab. You want them to be part of that. How does that affect their relationships? With each other, with your other gamers? Probably amazing, right? I hope. I mean, I'm banking on this being a good, fantastic way for you to develop social relationships. Does it get in the way of your relationship with your family? Do your parents harp on you and say, "Get off, that's great. I'm so tired of you guys gaming all day long," right? Like what kind of impact does it have on those kind of relationships, right? Evaluate some of that. So this is just a way for you to just sit down, have a conversation, have your students think about ways in which, gaming or screen time in general might have a positive or a negative impact on their life. So just a way for them to evaluate what does screen time mean and how does that impact the way that they think. So that's just one example of one of those, SEL routines that I thought was most relevant for all of you. And then another one was we have these digital dilemmas and thinking routines. And so I'm going to share one other piece here. And this one is called a digital habits checkup. And so this one is where you have your students take stock of what they do, have them sit down and write down, what habits do you have on your phone? Give me your top 3 things that you do on your phone every single day, right? Or what do you do in your life every day, when it comes to technology? And then think about how each of those habits makes you feel, right? And then you have them choose a habit that they want to change differently. So when I think about this, I think about like kind of some of the negative connotation that maybe some gaming has, and how might they change up some of their own digital habits so that they understand the impact of media and technology on their mood, on their feeling, on their own, on their social relationships, right? Like how do these digital habits make them feel? And then if gaming is something in there that makes them like, oh yeah, every single time I play with my friends, I am so happy and I'm so pumped. If it's like, oh man, when I play with these guys, I have, I'm irritable, I'm cranky, like whatever, right? Like, so I'm just trying to get them to think, to self-reflect on the ways that different technology makes them feel. And then this digital habits checkup goes on to say, could you challenge yourself to change up one of your habits, right? Could you maybe challenge yourself to try something different? And what's going to be your strategy for trying to do something different this week? Do it for 1 week and see what happens. Right. So these are just different ways that you can get your kids to kind of, this is along the lines of media balance and well-being. This is about, some sort of, self-regulation. This is about self-assessment, understanding and having some reflection of yourself. And how does this impact your esports program? Kind of more generally, right? If you can show that your students are thoughtful, if you can show that your students understand the ways that media and technology has an impact on their lives and you push them toward the positive, I can only imagine that that's something that would do better for, for your whole program, and that then your students then become leaders, right? That's what I eventually want to see is I want our esports kids to be the digital citizenship leaders of your school. I want them to be the ones who are peer coaching, not just in your esports spaces, but I want them to be peer coaching around the digital lives of all of your students, right? So that is my big dream, is that your esports kids will be like, yeah, they will be leading the way when it comes to a lot of the self-evaluation, the health around the culture of media and technology. So I put in this link here, getting started with lessons. When it comes to lessons, we have full 45-minute lessons that cover these topics of media balance, well-being, relationships, communication. We've already kind of talked about this. Digital footprint and identity, I threw in one example here where we're going to talk about your esports kids are potentially going off for scholarships. They are the digital culture leaders of your school in a lot of ways, and they need to be very mindful of the representation that they have of their peers, of their school, of their district, of their place in the world. Those are other lessons that I think that could be great and part of your program. Cyberbullying and digital drama and hate speech, I think, is just an automatic. If these are your leaders, they are the ones who need to stand up. They are the ones who need to take care of the rest of their culture. Anyway, privacy and security, I'm sure that's all very important. News and media literacy, very important too. But I also wanted to point out that these are not just 45-minute lessons. There are some 15-minute quick activities that I also link to. And so of these quick activities, a lot of these are video based too. So, it's not just the 45-minute pieces, but it is also, these short pieces that are, I put this one about who are you on social media, and I think I'm going to show you that one next. So, who are you on social media? Oh, no, I didn't do that one. Who are you on social media is one that I think is really fantastic. It is, again, just another 15-minute piece, and it has a video where students are talking about their own social media presence. Who are your esports kids? Who are your scholars in your school, and who are they on social media, and how is that different from online versus real life? So that is kind of, one of the pieces that I thought would be interesting. I thought I threw that in there. I did not. I did instead put this one about responding to hate speech. Your kids are in a lot of spaces, in a lot of digital spaces where they are going to be positioned where they are going to be seeing hate speech. And so one of the pieces of this lesson is about a hurtful meme. So when it comes to, this meme in particular, Maya saw that one of her friends, Luke, had posted a meme on Discord. I just changed that I edited this to add the Discord piece. The meme showed a picture of diamonds next to a picture of immigration officials, and it said, "Mexicans are worried about the wrong ICE right now." As soon as she saw the meme, Maya felt uneasy, and there were tons of Mexican students at her school, including Maya herself, right? Many of them were US citizens, but some were not. And the meme hit close to home. Plus, everyone could see that Luke had, he'd liked it, he'd posted it, and Luke was their class president. Maybe he is part of your esports team, and the students that had elected him to represent them. Maya also considered him one of her close friends. What if you position this to your students and say, all right, folks, we're going to analyze this situation, right? And we're going to identify who are the people in this scenario, what challenge are they facing, and what do you think each person in the dilemma is facing? Why might the situation be hard or challenging for them? And of course, you could always throw this into a Jamboard. If you have your students, in there, you can ask them, what do you think each person in the dilemma is facing, right? Why might the situation be hard or challenging for them? So this can be, a full discussion in your classroom. You could have your students do this digitally. You could have them do it with straight up, fancy pants Post-it notes in your room. And just, it's a practice. And the thing that's really nice is Maya and Luke are fake people. They are not your real kids. They are, these are fictionalized characters. You can say Luke is a jerk, right? And then, there's no Luke in your room. So it's okay, right? Or you could say Luke just thought he was being funny. Luke had no idea. Maybe he didn't even get the joke. Maybe, whatever. Maybe he's completely ignorant. Maybe he just thought it was, maybe he likes diamonds. I don't know. Like, why did Luke post this? And he's class president. How does this make Maya feel? What about all the people who are viewing this, right? So really analyzing the situation. It's complex because there's issues of race, there's issues of, legal issues, there's, undocumented kids in your space, right? So if these are the kind of dilemmas that you want your students to be ethical leaders as well, right? Not just, great at esports, right? Like, you want them to be good people. And so having them practice some of these conversations and understanding, not just all of this, but what options do they have for the situation? And, how could they come up with as many as possible? Which option is the best, right? So having them work through the situation, together and out loud, and about, these fictionalized people might be most helpful, right? So that's just an example of that. And I mentioned this last one about I already mentioned this one about your esports kids needing to consider their digital footprints. I did put it in there. I thought I put it in there. All right, so I did put it in there, and I have a direct link. This is hyperlinked to that specific video and discussion. So, it's a bunch of teen voices. It's real kids who are talking about who they are on social media and how it differs. So you could ask your kids about that. I also just wanted to end here. I know we've got quite a few minutes here, but I wanted to give you this last bit of parent resources. And I'm going to do a little question here about what else do we need? It's one thing for you guys to go out there and share resources with parents. I mean, I think supporting communication with parents is number one. When the kids are interested and you have parents who have trepidation and concern about all of this stuff, like that is huge. And I understand that as a parent who has a gaming kid, if my kid said, I want to do this all the time with my kids, with my friends at school, like I might be taken aback, right? And so I just wanted to share a few resources. And maybe it's like 6 things parents should know about esports. This is 1 minute, like there's a common sense video. And it just talks about what it is. What is esports, right? But it's not coming from the gaming company. It's not coming from you. It's coming from common sense. And if that is a trusted source by any means, by all means, share this. And then there are some concerns in here. You should go ahead and address those concerns and make sure parents understand what you're doing to talk about healthy media balance, to talk about some of the, the misogyny or, some of the experiences that they might have associated with esports, right? So be very open about what you're doing to mitigate some of these circumstances.
Here are 6 things parents should know about live video game competitions, also known as esports.
This is general.
Number 1, esports is now an officially sanctioned sport. High schools around the country are establishing rules and creating a structure for training and competition. Number 2, kids can play from the comfort of their homes, either independently or as members of an online team. Number 3, not everyone can get rich and famous from esports. Reaching the level of big-name professional competitors takes more than just good reflexes. Number 4, colleges offer esports scholarships to qualified students, so this might be a more realistic goal for your Fortnite-obsessed teen. Number 5, pro gamers do report health problems, including repetitive strain injuries, stress, and burnout from the ultra-intense competitions. And number 6, young gamers still need rules and balance from parents. Chores, homework, and face-to-face communication are important to aspiring esports heroes. For more tips, visit us at
Like, I don't know how long ago this happened, or who put this together, but I found it, just kind of recently in the last year. And I was just like, oh, wow, look at that. Look at that. We already have something about this. Not very comprehensive, but maybe it's just the quick introduction that parents need in order to be able to be like, okay, yeah, I know what this is now, right? And common sense says that there might be these problems, and here's what we're doing to make sure our kids don't get repetitive sports injuries, right? Here's another one that I was just thinking about, like games in general. Like, what is your school doing around the culture of games? Like 10 things parents need to know about Minecraft is another quick piece in here that I thought would be helpful. We don't need to play this one. I also found a parent's ultimate guide to esports. And, it has a lot of positive and negative pieces in here that, maybe you want to consider when it comes to communicating with parents and the things that we say. And if you have any updates, or if you're like, oh, Sue, this is totally wrong, change this. This is not this is not something that we do anymore. This is not part of our culture. And this is just general esports. It's not necessarily Scholastic esports, by the way, not necessarily school-based. And then the other piece that I thought might be helpful is we have Parents' Ultimate Guide to Discord. We have Parents' Ultimate Guide to Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft. Like, if you are at your school, if you are trying to build this culture of, gaming as the kids are younger, and then, as they get older, you might want to share some of these, these primers with parents to help them understand what these games are, what are the benefits, what are the drawbacks, and how do they, and how do they help their kids and support them. The other big thing, like, as you have this code of conduct at your school or, with your club, and you have agreements, parents should also have agreements with their kids. They should also be talking about what their family rules are and what the structure is. And, sending home, being proactive as your esports coach or as part of, of the program, by sending home a family media agreement of some kind and saying, I think, as the coach, it's very important for you and your kids to communicate about technology in general, not just about gaming, but in general. Here are, here's a protocol or a template that you can use to get started with that conversation. You're going to look like a hero. You're going to look like somebody who is very invested in the lives of their students and making sure that you are taking care of them, holistically, not just them as gamers. So, so I threw that in there because I think that's, you want to win the trust of these parents. You want them to think that you are completely on their side with their kid. So that's all I kind of threw together, in terms of the stuff that we have at Common Sense. I talk about digital citizenship, social emotional learning, and parent stuff all day long. I try to just put a lens on here in terms of what I thought might be helpful, but I'm always open to feedback, questions, anything that you need, or any individual support that you need for your particular program. So that's all I've got for now. You guys let me know if you want to stick around. If you're like, oh my God, thanks, I'm out. There you go. I'll take your slides, and I'm gonna go eat dinner or whatever you want. Let me know. I am still here, but stick around. Yeah. There you go, Dennis. Did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, I love what you're sharing about talking to parents. And so that's always one of our pieces of advice is if you're at a school that's considering and planning on starting an esports program, bring your stakeholders together, bring your administrators, bring board members, bring parents, bring students together and talk about, what it is that you're envisioning and the why behind it. And let them ask their questions and get out in front of some of the things that you think they might ask, but then make sure that they feel heard. Otherwise, like with so many other things, if you just start, that's a group that can really sabotage something that you got up and running, got some momentum behind it, and then it can get squashed. So it's really important for parents to know that the school realizes, oh, there are some potential issues here, and here's how we're going to address them.
Yeah. Parents will be your biggest nemesis, or they will be your biggest champion, right? They are tenacious, and if they see their kid happy and healthy and if you're doing something amazing for them, man, they will be your biggest advocate. So jump out in front. Absolutely, Dennis. Yeah, that's great.
We've literally had talk to us at tournaments and thank us for putting these things together. I mean, literally with tears in their eyes, thanking us and for help, for supporting an environment where their student can really shine in something that they're passionate about anyway, and have it be honored and respected, and have it be done in a really positive way.
I mean, not knowing what this is your biggest barrier. I think as soon as parents, as soon as teachers, as soon as they understand what you're doing, I think you've already accomplished something, right? They just need to see it. I had no idea what any of this stuff is. And then I walk into a tournament and I'm like, oh my God, these kids are just amazing. I love this whole entire thing, right? Any person who loves students and loves their kids, I hope is convinced by what it is that they see. So just getting over that hurdle of ignorance is the biggest part. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's why I'm running around trying to tell educators, trying to tell the folks at Common Sense, trying to tell anybody who will listen to me that you just have to see it, right? You just have to see it. You have to understand it as in a school setting. I think that's the biggest thing. Is I think people see it in a professional setting and they think that is what we're talking about, and that's their perception. And I want them to understand that this is about, creating an environment within a school, creating a team, creating a social network. Yeah. Well, we've already drank the Kool-Aid. I don't think, So if there's anything that I can do to help your parents drink the Kool-Aid, if I can help your educators by answering any questions, I was a total skeptic turned enthusiast. That I'll do anything I can to be helpful.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks, folks.
Oh, we're going to remind people that we have a really diverse panel of some experts coming up at 6:10. So take a break, get something to eat, but at 6:10,
come back.
Be back for our panel discussion. Thank you, Sue. Thank you so much. That was awesome.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, Alessia.